Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have a book review for another Series 2000 book. However, unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to delay the ranking video till next week for these books when I'm almost done. This is my next to last one. I have one more Goosebumps book from the Series 2000 era after this review. But I don't have the original cover of this book. I have the reissue cover, which I'll show you in a moment as I do the review, but I have the new one coming in. There was a misunderstanding when I bought it from eBay, and the person I bought it from sent me the actual book. It's on its way now, so that's pretty cool. Thank you again to the person out there if you happen to know that I'm the one buying from you. Anyway, so I have the original cover of this book coming. Right now I just have the reissue cover, which I also love quite a bit. I don't know the original number of this book. I think it's like kind of a middle area of the Series 2000 locations, like number 1 through 25, is it? I don't know what number this is. Anyway, the book itself, with the reissue cover, is Goosebumps Series 2000, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. Of course, it's the reissue, just like the Give Yourself Goosebumps book, Please Don't Feed the Vampire. It's just listed as Goosebumps now. And Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. Look at these spooky looking ghouls, dude. That, to me personally, is a better representation of what this book is about, because the original cover looks like zombies coming out of the graves, and the cover's really great. I like that cover more than this one, but this is one of the best Brandon Dorman covers out there, with Haunted Mask 2, with Haunted Mask 1, with some of his Slappy World covers that have been really great. I really put this up there with that. Maybe one day I'll do like a ranking video of the Dorman covers that he's worked on. I don't know. Anyway, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. What is this book about? Well, with the cover, and with the title, and the original cover especially in my brain, I assumed it was going to be some kind of, ghoul, which is another word back in the day in like the 50s for zombie. And it's not really that. It's kind of the different type of ghoul that you typically have using the word ghoul to nowadays, where it's kind of like, well, I guess it was kind of like that in the 50s too, where it's really just somebody who's very creepy, eerie, maybe a monster, maybe supernatural, maybe not, hanging around in graveyards, maybe stealing bodies of some sort. That's really what a ghoul is defined as, kind of loosely in pop culture. And graveyard ghouls in this book are very similar to the supernatural ones, the body stealer ones, and let me get into all of that as I talk about the actual story. Basically, we have a kid named Spencer who, he has like 3 brothers and sisters, which was weird to me, seeing a Goosebumps book that's, getting closer and closer to being a cheaper by the dozen sequel. But his parents are a little overwhelmed with all the kids they have. Having 4 kids, it's a lot. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law have 4 kids. That is rough. They're great kids, don't get me wrong. I love my nieces and nephews, but man, that's a lot. I can't imagine the kind of panic that you probably feel all the time. Every time you hear the weirdest different thump in the house, you probably think somebody bashed their head into the wall. Anyway, so getting away from that very dark image I just shared with you, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls basically is about Spencer, who's just a young guy. He doesn't really have anything going for him. Nothing really, like in the previous book, The Haunted Car, the kid was obsessed with cars that we read about there. This kid's not really like that. He's just kind of there doing his thing, being a kid, and he has like one friend named Audra or whatever, and he and his class go on a field trip to this place called the High Grave Hill, I believe is what it is, or High Grave Hill Graveyard, something like that. Anyway, in their town, city, county, I don't know, they have a massive hill. This massive area, kind of in the dead middle of everything, that is just a graveyard, a big old graveyard. Very big, lots of dead bodies, lots of gravestones and headstones and all that stuff. And everybody knows about it. It's kind of like they're right there in the town. I mean, everybody has seen this over and over again as they drive through this area. He goes on a field trip up there with his teacher after he is kind of into writing. He has to write like a small story type of thing or some kind of document of some sort for class. His teacher gets the idea based on his story about these ghouls from the graveyard to take the class up there for a field trip and kind of do something spooky. Back when I was a kid in the 90s, a lot of you younger kids might not know about this. I don't know if teachers are still able to do this or not, but when you were a kid in the 90s, I don't know about the 80s or anything like that, we always kind of celebrated Halloween. We had like little Halloween parties in elementary school and that kind of thing, and it was fun. My grandparents would be involved. I have a lot of wonderful memories with that back in the day from when I was a kid. And my classmates, my old friends that I still run into every once in a while where I live, it's great times. Really, really miss those times. And I think a lot of kids nowadays miss out on that time. But my point is, there was something always kind of fun about doing that as like a class, you know, like having these kind of Halloween party things, and teachers could have kind of spooky storytelling stuff. They could read you scary stories to tell in the dark. They could read you, what is that other book from the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark writer? I cannot remember what the book is off the top of my head. There's a lot of books like that for kids. Goosebumps, great example as well. Teachers used to be able to get away with being able to read that to the class sometimes. I don't think they can get away with that now, or even really bringing anything scary or creepy if they're happening to be horror movie fans outside of the school. They can't really do anything like that, from what I understand from teachers in my family. And it's kind of a shame, in my opinion. That was always kind of fun. But this teacher kind of organizes a field trip to go to this graveyard and basically do sketches of the graves, kind of like from Ghost Beach. If you've read that particular book from Goosebumps, the old classic series, I thought that was kind of a cool, different thing for that book, and it was a kind of cool throwback for this book to have that throwback to Ghost Beach, because it's one of my favorites. But they go through and they do sketches of the graves and headstones and stuff where they have different types of writing, and some of them can be humorous, and a lot of them are just really dark. This whole town and the atmosphere of this book and its tone is very dark. And that's kind of a Series 2000 staple, but it just feels lesser in this book, I think, compared to a lot of books. Like The Haunted Car, that I just read yesterday, as a matter of fact, was very eerie. The atmosphere was so thick, so tense. And I think the Graveyard Ghouls book sort of gets there in the first third, and then it kind of loses me after that. Essentially, our main character goes back at one point because he forgot something on the field trip up in that graveyard. I think it was his backpack and his hat. He and his friend Audra go back up there, and it's kind of late. And they get tied up. They get tied down to gravestones, basically. Well, at least, you know, Spencer does. By some bullies. And in the midst of being left there alone, he starts to hear a voice behind him, which is really creepy, on the other side of the headstone that he's attached to. And he starts to hear something come closer and closer. It puts its hand on his head and sinks into his body and possesses his body and kicks his, like, soul, spirit, whatever, out of his body. And then he basically has to watch, like, almost like one of the characters describes later on that they feel like air, you know, which is a really great description of this soul-like state of being, I guess. But he's looking down. Spencer is looking down at his body. After Audra comes back with his parents, they get him freed from the ropes that are holding him to that headstone, and they get out of there. And Spencer's in panic mode. He's like, you know, some kind of ghoul has possessed my body. And yes, it's that kind of story. And that is about a third of the book that I just told you about. Out of 117 or 20 pages, that's about a third of this book. And I'm going to be honest with you, as soon as I got to the part where we were switching bodies, immediately my brain was like, oh, no. Because this has been done so much. I'm sick of it in Goosebumps. I'm sick of it in everything. It's one of those things that I complain about all the time. Like the shrinking person stories, which are everywhere in R.L. Stine work. They're everywhere in every bit of media for the last 25, 30 years. I'm so sick of seeing people get shrunken to fight big bugs and big pieces of grass and that kind of crap. I don't care about it. This is another example of that kind of story, the possession story. I thought it would be cool with the idea of the Graveyard Ghouls. I thought we would get something more similar to Zombie Halloween from the Goosebumps Most Wanted Special Edition series. We didn't get that. That was not what this book was, and I think the original cover, as great as it is a straight-out lie. It just is. I think the new cover is fairly faithful. This idea of these monstrous spirits that want to cause chaos, because the ghoul that possessed Spencer's body goes on a total rampage over the next couple of days. Just total rampage. I think it's really just one day later. But anyway, he's destroying everything. He's destroying the whole town and city. That stuff is cool. I like it. But it loses the serious tone the book started off with for the first third of the book. I don't know if Scholastic stepped in back in the day and said, look, Stine, we need you to back away a little bit from the kind of darker stuff in Series 2000. We need you to lighten up a little bit. But it surprises me because of books like Earth Geeks Must Go, which I also read last week and I really loved. That was pretty dark too. There's a lot of dark stuff in Series 2000. I don't know what really happened here, but this book to me feels so goofy compared to a lot of Series 2000, a lot of Goosebumps in general. I love the concept at first of this graveyard thing, the setting. I loved all that. This amount of death, a graveyard representing looming over this town. I love that idea. It's a great concept, great imagery to have. The idea that this hill is bigger than the town in some ways is fascinating. I love that setting for this. I think it's a great, great missed opportunity. And it's a shame, because I'm just not into this book. And I was actually surprised. I think Spongy was the one who commented yesterday on the Haunted Car review, saying that he thought, you know, I would love this quite a bit. And I'm going to be honest with you, this one lost me. It lost me really bad. It reminds me so similarly, I can't speak, it reminds me a lot of Nightmare on Clown Street from Most Wanted. A lot of you folks really, really love that book. I love the concept of it. I love like half the book. But the rest of it, it got so silly and goofy, it just lost me. That is exactly what I feel like happened with this book. I feel like Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, it gets too goofy for what it should be, in my opinion, what it was advertised as back in the day, which isn't fair. That was like 20 years ago. But it doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. If you've ever read a Switching Bodies story, ever, you've experienced the story, basically, except for the opening, with the concept and the ideas and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of nice. I liked all that, but do I think it holds up? No. I genuinely think this is one of the weaker Series 2000 books. Kind of like in the dead middle of everything, a little bit, but maybe below Return to Horrorland, which is a good book, but that's not like great, you know. That's a good read. It has some good moments to it, and I wish it had been followed up to by another sequel book, but it never was, which is a shame. Aside from the Horrorland series, but that's not really directly tied to that one. This is a weak one, a really weak one. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite or the worst of Series 2000, but I do think it's probably in the bottom 10 for me. I think it's a weak one, in my opinion. All that being said, though, great cover here, great cover on the original book. I will have that original book here soon, hopefully by next week, and I can do the ranking video. Maybe I'll film that over the weekend, I'm not really sure. I'll figure out what I can find out. It's going to be a busy weekend anyway, it's Super Bowl weekend. We have some plans, but still, Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. Have you guys read this book? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. This being a reissue makes it a lot easier to get your hands on it in case you want to read it sometime. This and Bride of the Living Dummy also got Series 2000 reissues. Bride and Haunted Car are really good. This one is okay. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, this is going to hurt, man. This is going to hurt. But I really don't want to read this ever again. I mean that. I really want to keep my distance from it. Maybe like 10 years down the road, if I still have my collection, I would love to possibly sit down and retest it at some point. I don't know. It depends. We'll see what happens one day. But if I had to rate this one on a 5-star basis, this is going to hurt. I hope you're prepared for this because, again, I compared it to a book that I also hate the other half so much of, Nightmare on Clown Street, that it ruined that book for me too. I'm going to give Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls a 2 out of 5 stars. I really think it loses its tone. I really think that it loses a lot of the benefits that it had going for it in the early parts of it, maybe even the first half. But as soon as I hit that possession story thing, and the way it's executed, it's so goofy, and the ending is bad. I don't like this one. Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls for me is a sour mess. I'm sorry, not with it. Not with it. I know a lot of folks out there must have really, really enjoyed this one, must have really been looking forward to me reviewing this one. I'm sorry to give you kind of a bitter review, but, you know, at least the next one, the last one, is Ghost in the Mirror, and I'm really excited about that. I'm not going to read that just yet. I'm going to take a couple of days, maybe just one more day, actually. It's already Wednesday. Probably going to take a day, read some TV books, try to get those reviewed over tomorrow, possibly, and then Ghost in the Mirror for Friday, which I think would be cool. But like I said, next week will probably be the ranking videos for everything from the worst to best, and then another ranking video doing the covers. But anyway, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I am so sorry for such a rambly, bitter review, but I didn't click with this one. I was in a weird mood anyway yesterday, and then I read this and I was like, oh no. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars. I'm sorry for a low review, but that's how I feel. I know people are going to be mad. I'm probably going to get some hate for that, but I can't help it, man. I got to be fair where I'm being fair at. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.